All right. Thank you all for coming out, whether you're here in person or virtually, for our PAC volunteer recruitment training session. This is a training session that you will find nowhere in the BSA catalog of training courses. This is one that came out of a discussion that Charlotte Pemberton and I had about, what do PACs need? What are some challenges that we're facing? And one of the clear issues that we saw last year especially was challenges with recruiting new adult volunteers into Cub Scout packs to become den leaders, join the pack committee, and otherwise be more engaged than just a parent bringing their child to a regular den or pack meeting. And so that's the purpose of tonight. This is not going to be a long stretched out training unless y'all have questions at the end, and we'll answer everyone's questions, and there'll probably be a little discussion there at the end of the session. But we're gonna walk through some things here, and then we are gonna have a little role play about what a group recruitment session might look like in the fall after your joint scouting night. So we'll start with, I already talked about welcome and purpose. We've got, let's see, about 12 people online. We've got about 8 people in this room, 7 people in this room. I can't count tonight. So in my mind, PAC volunteer recruitment starts with a PAC planning conference. So anyone already held their PAC planning conference this summer?
It's in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, it's scheduled. That's awesome. Okay.
Ours is Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. Even sooner. So no pressure. The PAC planning conference is where you plan your next year of Cub Scout program. Most PAC planning conferences that I've seen or run are gathering of the adult volunteers, any other parents who want to come. Everyone's invited. Typically, no kids, because Cub Scouts can be challenging at those meetings, but your PAC it's up to you. And you're reviewing the calendar, setting, usually someone shows up with a draft calendar. That's the way to go. Someone makes some pencil line decisions and shows up with a plan already in place, and then people can, up down that. And you're also talking about who can run the Pinewood Derby, who can lead this camp out, who can do all that kind of stuff. And so, and that's really where you see also who's coming back next year, because we get parents who they're in the summer, they're just kind of check out, and maybe they say, hey, Johnny doesn't want to do Cub Scouts anymore. We're gonna, move on to something else. So usually right after the PAC planning conference, or even during it, this is a great time to reconfirm existing volunteers. And what I mean by that is, who's going to run my second grade den? Is that first grade den leader moving up? And all along there, let's reconfirm who's going to be in charge of our Cub Scout pack in each den. These are best practices. What I see our best Cub Scout packs doing. Usually it's the committee chairman of the pack and the Cub master probably having a meeting and saying, okay, let's map out what we think is happening, and then let's divide and conquer. And so typically the Cub master is responsible for firming up the den leaders, and the committee chair is responsible for firming up key roles on the committee. And then we're hopefully taking it at the next level too. If you reconfirm your den leader, you're saying to them, hey, who's your assistant going to be? And then they'll say, okay, I'll go ask, Sue if she'll do it again this year. Or I think, I've already got this dad lined up. Through this, that's where you figure out where your holes are. And so we're going to identify vacancies. Where do we have an opening? Where do we have, a problem? Where do we need to actually, go out and recruit a new treasurer or a new PAC outdoors program coordinator? And then usually the Cub master and the committee chair, maybe with a few others who know the PAC very well, know lots of families in the PAC. That little group are sitting down and talking about prospects. Okay, we need a new treasurer. Who do we have that we think would be good for that role? Who is not already doing something? A dad who's a CPA, a mom who works at a bank, whatever you're looking for. You're identifying those prospects. You're coming up with the way I typically have handled volunteer recruitment, and I served for when my kids were way younger than they are now, I served for 4 years as a pack committee chairman for my son's pack. This was exactly how we kind of map stuff out. But we would come up with our prospects, okay? And then we would rank them 1, 2, 3, who we think is our first choice, second choice, third choice. And yeah, sometimes we're not lucky. We don't have a set first, second, and third choice to go after. But we're definitely coming up with prospects, and we're saying, okay, who's going to call on that person? And I wrote one-on-one asks to those prospects, but really 2 people going to visit that prospect is far better than 1. Okay. And let me talk about that one-on-one face-to-face ask of a candidate to serve in a volunteer role. That's what has the absolute most success. If you and your pack are able to spend some time in this area right here and set yourself up for the fall, this is time very well spent. But that one-on-one recruitment is not on the phone. It's not an email. This is, hey, can we meet for coffee? Hey, can we grab breakfast? Hey, can I stop by your office for, at lunchtime? Let's carve out a little time and actually sit down face to face. Okay. And if you're like most parents and you're smart, when the Cub Master of the Cub Scout Pack calls you up and says, hey, can I meet with you? What do you say? Oh, you want to be rude, but you could. But you ask a question. What's the question? What do you need? What's this about? Right? What do you want? And the important thing is, don't make the ask on the phone, even if they push. So say, hey, it's important. I want to come see you face to face. It's worth it for me and for you for us to do that. I don't want to talk about this on the phone. It's not bad, but this is let's meet together and talk about it. Okay. So have it be a face-to-face request. If you can, have 2 volunteers who are already involved with the pack go, if possible. Okay, if possible. So you're recruiting a new assistant Cub Master. That might be the Cub Master and the pack committee chair, or someone else who, say this nicely, someone who that prospect might have a tougher time saying no to. Their den leader and the Cub Master, right? So we go visit with them. It's a one-on-one. I recommend taking a super simple piece of paper that says, volunteer position description, assistant Cub Master, has 4 or 5 bullet points. And at the very bottom, maybe a time commitment that could be expected per month or per week, whatever's appropriate. And something you can put in their hands, they could see anything that is going to add to it a little bit and not be quite so big, right? But you make the request. You say, here's what we think are the best key phrases in those one-on-one conversations are, we talked amongst ourselves and we think you're the best possible person to do this job in our Cub Scout Pack. Okay. We are going to help you, support you, get you oriented and trained in this role so you can be successful. This is not a lifelong commitment. We're asking you to make a commitment for this program year, and then we'll talk about it again next summer. Okay. So those are, I think, key points that I always say when I do a volunteer recruitment. They're the best choice, their support, and what the time commitment expectation is. Okay. They're going to have questions. You answer those questions. You may not always get an answer at that visit. Totally okay. But usually you can kind of guess which way it's going to go. Right. If they say no, go to your second choice. They say no, go to your third choice. I also recommend if they say no to that role, but you think they'd be good for something else, don't be afraid to have this other smaller thing available for them to volunteer for. That way, there's something good for you and a cushion for them where they don't have to feel like a bad guy, right? So that smaller volunteer role could be something like, hey, we need someone to be a judge at the Pound Derby. We need someone to send out emails about the potluck supper. It doesn't have to be a really hard role, but a task. Does that make sense? Okay. So we've made all of our one-on-one asks, and we've filled up our pack as best we can, okay, with new volunteers in the summer in preparation for the start of school recruiting activities. And so join scouting night, and then anything else you're doing, a bring a buddy event, a back to the pack event, where you're going to bring in new families. You're going to hold those. And typically we are not doing a parent recruitment at those meetings, right? We are not saying, hey, parents, you have to volunteer tonight if you want your child to be involved in scouting. We're typically doing it later. And what we found was last year and in some other years, some of our packs were not being they either weren't scheduling these parents meetings after the joint scouting event, or if they were holding them, they were just not being conducted all that well. And so first off, I wrote hold a parents meeting, but you cannot call it a parents meeting, okay, because no one will show up. So this is usually your next pack meeting right after your sunup night, okay? And when you're doing your calendar, you kind of want to schedule that where it's pretty quick. You have your sunup night, and then ideal situation is that very next week, you're holding a pack meeting. At that pack meeting, existing volunteers, maybe some volunteers or scouts from the troop that you're associated with, if there is one, are going to come and help wrangle Cub Scouts for a 20-minute block of time, and give you enough time to then hold a parents meeting with parents and do a volunteer recruitment. I also want to say that if you wind up in a situation where you have to have kids with their parents at that meeting, it can be done, but it's a little cleaner and nicer if the kids are in a different room. Okay. So we're going to role play this parents meeting or pack volunteer recruitment event. But then the last step and a very important step is once any new volunteers get recruited at this event, we're going to orient and train them right away. So a timeline could be, hey, we're having our joint scouting night this week. Next week, we're having our pack parents meeting and recruiting, adult volunteers. And then the very next week, we're having a very quick orientation with those new adult volunteers on, give them a week to go online and take the training. And then have an opportunity for them to turn in adult applications, if they need it, get the syllabus for their grade level, and just have mentors there who can kind of give guidance and answer questions. Usually, brand new den leaders are the ones who need the most guidance. Committee people pick it up at the committee meetings. It's not tough. It's other adults. It's the brand new den leaders specifically where we got to spend the most time. Okay, so we're going to talk about this meeting right here. And the model I'm going to use for this meeting is a model that I've used for about 25 years. And it's a model that I have used lots of times. Every year I've conducted meetings where we've recruited new den leaders and new committee members using this method. This method can be used either at a joint scouting night if you're kind of starting from scratch. Like if a pack falls apart and you've got not a lot of volunteers returning and it's just one pack at that joint scouting night, you could follow this model there. But it's also very conducive for a pack leaders meeting. The key is you do need turnout. You do need parents to attend. During the role play, I'm going to hold this up a few times and talk about why I'm doing exactly what I'm doing during the role play. You have to kind of have a core group of people, enough people to show up for things for the magic to happen. That sounds kind of corny, but that's kind of how it works. So tonight I'm going to play the role of the PAC committee chair. And so I'm the one kind of organizing this parents meeting. Doesn't have to be that way for your Cub Scout Pack. It could be the Cub Master. It could be another leader who has the gift of talking in front of a large group of people and being charismatic. But anyone can run this, but this is kind of the model that I've seen work. that I think can be replicated without too much pain. So go ahead and get started, assuming that kids have left the room and I've just got parents in that room. Parents, thank you so much for coming out tonight. This is our parents meeting part of the meeting, and we're going to spend some time on just a couple of quick things, and then we're going to spend time, a little longer time, talking about who's going to help out and make our Cub Scout Pack go. Now, I know that many of y'all are brand new to scouting, signed up last week, and so we're going to talk a little bit about why we have scouting very briefly. And then talk about what parents do to make scouting go. So in Scouts, we have 3 big goals: teaching young people citizenship, fitness, and character. We teach them to, not just raise and lower the flag properly and fold it right and salute and do all those things, but also our real mission is to help them become good citizens, give back to their community, learn about the value of helping other people. We do that in lots of different ways: service projects in the community, and other activities that teach them good citizenship. We also teach fitness in mind and body. All the badges they earn in Scouts are all about them gaining physical and emotional fitness. And so growing and gaining skills is very important for us. But I think the most important thing we do is teach character. We teach a set of values, the same values you're teaching at home or they're learning at school or church. Our values are based on our Scout Oath and Scout Law. The Scout Law goes: a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And yes, they will learn all those words. And we try and teach these things by doing fun activities. We could bring all our Scouts once a week into a room like this and lecture them on being good people. How do you think that would go? Yeah, your parents, it wouldn't go well. It'd be bad. So we don't do that. We use fun methods and activities to teach all those very important things. This says weekly den meetings, but they're usually twice a month. Twice a month we have den meetings. Den meetings last about an hour. Parents lead them. In a den meeting, there's an opening and a closing, which are usually Pledge of Allegiance, maybe saying the Scout Oath or Law. And then in between, we build projects and play games that teach lessons and values. Again, parents run those den meetings. They last about an hour, twice a month. We involve the outdoors. We have lots of outdoor activities that families can be involved with, some that the pack organizes and some that you can do on your own as a family. There's a scout camp in Goochland County where we get to go, and a Cub Adventure Camp. And no matter your skill level, if you want to go camping, they can accommodate you. There's rustic campsites with nothing but water. And there's also campsites that are under in a cabin. And there's a flush toilet and a hot shower nearby and a dining hall you can eat meals in that's air conditioned. So whatever your camping level, there's something there for you. We have recognition. Young people in Scouts earn badges. Once a month, there's a pack meeting where they receive those badges. And they get recognized in front of their friends and their family for the skills they've learned. We have special events. So all throughout the year, Scouts are doing special things. We march in parades. We get to build Power Derby cars or build boats. We have potluck suppers, and we do fundraisers during the year to help support everything we're doing. We also put kids in age groups. So guys in kindergarten want to do different things than kids who are in 5th grade. And so they have different age groups for each of those grade levels with a different program for each grade level. All right, so that's the super fast skinny on scouting. But Cub Scouting, it runs through parent volunteers. Moms and dads help make Cub Scouting happen, no matter where you are. Here in Richmond, in New York City, out in Colorado, doesn't matter where, parent volunteers make Cub Scouting go. And everyone in this room are parent volunteers that you see in uniform. However, what we don't do is make one person do everything. We take all of the tasks that have to get done to make a great program happen for our children, and we divide them up into smaller pieces. Now we do have one Cub Master for our pack. We are Pack 123. Didn't know that already. We're Pack 123, and our Cub Master is Miss Charlotte Pemberton. And Charlotte's going to talk to you a little bit about where we meet.
Great, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We meet here at St. Michael's. As we said earlier, we have 2 den meetings on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday of each month. On the 4th Wednesday, we have our pack meeting, and that's where all the dens come together as a large group, and we have a lot of fun. And as Bill said, we have recognitions for things the kids have earned. So we're very proud of that point. But all of that takes volunteers to make it go, to make it happen. None of it is rocket science. None of it is hard. It's just many hands make life work. And frankly, now at this age of your child, they want to be with you. They want you to be a part of their activities and part of the fun. That doesn't last long. I can tell you as a parent, that only lasts a few years. So please take every advantage of that. Step up, volunteer, do something to have fun, make our path fun and successful. And so we're going to tell you what you can do and how to do it. So thank you very much for being here tonight.
All right. Thanks, Charlotte. Let's give her a hand. Let me talk to you about what Charlotte does as a volunteer. So she's the key communicator for our Cub Scout Pack. She lets people know about what's going on. She runs the monthly pack meeting where kids receive their awards. She kind of is the organizer, gets the ball rolling on projects. And she's the key contact person. When people outside of our pack have questions about our Cub Scout Pack, either new Scout families who want to join or the council office, they call Charlotte. Okay. Now, Charlotte, how many meetings does Charlotte run a month? 1. Okay. Sounds like a pretty sweet gig, right? 1 meeting a month. Okay. So, but Charlotte has a very important role in our pack. And we're thrilled that she is here and helping out. But the Cub Master, sadly, is not the most important person for your child in Cub Scouting. The most important person for you and your family and your child is their den leader. Okay. The den leader runs that den meeting. Again, it says weekly, but it's every other week, twice a month, 1st and 3rd Wednesdays. And dens are kids who are all in the same age level, roughly 6 to 12 scouts. And again, a den meeting has an opening and a closing in between projects and games. And those projects and games change every meeting. The den leaders, every volunteer, in fact, gets training. We have an online training that everyone can take, teaches you how to run den meetings. We also have experienced den leaders in our Cub Scout Pack who can provide tips and coaching for new den leaders. We also, we give den leaders something very important too. Anyone here ever teach Sunday school? Anybody? Okay. When the pastor said, hey, here's your class, go have fun, did they give you anything? What'd they give you?
Lesson plans.
Lesson plans. Awesome. Okay. So we do the same thing. And so we give our den leaders lesson plans that are like reading a recipe. It says, here are the ingredients, make sure you have all this stuff. And then it says, here's your opening, here are your games, here are projects, here's your closing. Every meeting's mapped out and planned out for you. And so all across America, there's den leaders, parents who are doing the exact same meeting plans on that exact same night all across the country. Those den meetings are, they work, they've been tested, and we revise them every year. But again, a den meeting is about an hour. Den leader has to have help though. They don't do it on their own. Everyone needs a helper. And so we've got an assistant den leader who steps in and helps run the den meetings if the den leader gets sick or can't make a meeting. They also are there at the regular meetings, and usually they take on a portion of the leadership role. We also in grades kindergarten and 1st grade, all the parents have to be at all the den meetings anyway. This is not a drop off your child program with kindergarten and 1st grade. Those parents need to be there. We still need a den leader and assistant leader, but the parents need to be there because it's hard for kids that age to do a lot of projects, or they're learning to interact with each other. Okay, the other people who are very important are the folks who work with me on the PAC committee. The PAC committee is all adults. They work behind the scenes. They meet once a month. and we do things like plan fundraisers, plan upcoming events, plan the annual pack camp out we do, plan the pack Blue and Gold banquet. And we also communicate with parents about what's going on and assist the Cub Master in making sure that the pack, everything happens smoothly. If you like working with kids, then den leader and assistant den leader are great roles. You're gonna have a lot of fun. If you don't like working with kids, but you still want to help, and trust me, I know, I'm a parent too. The pack committee is a great place to do something with other adults and not work with kids. All right. So what's going to happen right now is we're going to get in our den groups. And so tonight, we have good news for some of the grade levels. We have all the adult leaders in place that we need to make that den go, because we have returning leaders. For some groups, we are going to have to find some new leaders tonight from the parents who are at your den table. So when I say go, not yet, but when I say go, I need y'all to actually stand up and move to your den table. And we're going to have first graders right here. So if you're a first grade parent, just come to this table. If you're in second grade, you're going to go to that table over there. If you're a third grade parent, go over here, and fourth and fifth graders right over here. Okay. So when you mark, get set, go. We're going to pause the role play for a second, and y'all shouldn't have to move because I think I gave all of y'all first grade slips because I'm lazy. That's right. And so everyone moves around the room. You can also preset, just so you know, you can preset signs and they can just sit there. That works pretty good too. Now, we identify our vacancies and we try to fill them. So at this point, as committee chair, I know where our holes are. So I'm going to talk about that now to the group. So role play back on. Okay, folks. Let me talk about where we need volunteers and where we already have parent volunteers in place. So if you are fourth and fifth grade, you guys are set. We have our fourth and fifth grade volunteers in place, a returning den leader and assistant den leader for each group. I would love to get a couple of folks from your table for the PAC committee though, because we need more people on our PAC committee. Over here in third grade, we have a returning den leader, but they need an assistant den leader also. We do have someone for the PAC committee from your den though. So just all we're looking for is an assistant den leader from that third grade table over there. Second grade, we have 2 returning assistant den leaders, but we need a den leader. So that's what I need y'all to work on tonight. And here at the first grade table, well, we've got to get a den leader, an assistant den leader, and someone for the PAC committee. Okay. So now, folks, here's the part of the meeting that gets scary, because I know how everyone works, and you all are probably not going to talk amongst yourselves. So I'm going to have to force you to do it. Can anyone not talk? Great, awesome. So everyone can participate, and no one can say no if I ask you to be the table chairman. So the table chairman only has a job tonight. Their job is to get the conversation going. Okay. The table chairman says things like, what's everyone's name? What's everyone do? Who wants to be den leader? And I'm going to assign a table chairman for each group. And again, the table chairman, once we recruit the volunteers for that den, they don't have a job after tonight. Okay. So over here, sir, would you be the table chairman tonight? Sure. Awesome. And over there, ma'am, would you be table chairman? And sir in the blue shirt, table chairman. And over here, lady in the pink shirt, would you be table chairman? Awesome. Never had anyone say no to being table chairman. So and then I say this, I say, okay, again, the table chairman's job is to keep you from counting ceiling tiles or looking at your phone and not talking to other adults. But these are the folks who are going to be in your Cub Scout den this year. And these look like nice folks to me. So I need y'all to talk amongst yourselves. Table chairman, lead the discussion. And again, once we have recruited the needed volunteers, then let me know for your den and I'll give you your next task. Again, first grade, we need den leader, assistant, and committee. Second grade, we have an assistant and the committee, we just need a den leader. Over here, third grade, an assistant, and over here, fourth and fifth grade, we could use a committee chair, a PAC committee member from your table. All right, so table chairman, do your jobs, talk amongst yourselves. At this point, I'm going to pause the role play. At this point, I'm going to go grab Charlotte and any other existing volunteer parent and take them out of the room. Okay. Anyone want to guess why I do this? You're not there. Right. So if I stay in the room or Charlotte stays in the room, or any of the den leaders who are existing walk over to their table of new den leaders, they will talk. And parents will ask them questions. And that is not what I want to do. All I want to happen now is for the parents to talk amongst themselves and actually figure out who has the time, the energy, and the interest to volunteer in one of these roles. Right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Would it be a good idea also to at each group have a sheet with like maybe the responsibilities that needed in that group with some of the
Oh, that's a great idea.
that way,
Absolutely.
because
Yep.
if
Mhm.
everybody's leaving,
Yep.
who can answer the question, well, what's involved with that role?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. And so, yeah, that's a really good idea. Having some very quick job descriptions, just like the ones I went through here,
Right,
you know?
right, exactly like that,
yep.
just have it so they don't,
Right.
in case they weren't paying attention.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I tell you what, I often come back in the room. I usually leave the room, take all the volunteers out for about 3 or 4 minutes. And then I put my head back in and look around and walk around. At that point, they're engaged in discussion. And so I can kind of snoop on them and see who's doing a good job and who's not, who needs help. So yeah, but they always ask that question. Hey, can you tell me what a den leader does again?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right, so let's assume that Charlotte and I left the room and have come back in. And first grade always forms, because you got to come to meetings anyway. This is an easy sell. You're going to be there no matter what. And I never have issues getting first grader families to step up and say, I'll help out, because you got to be there anyway. Okay. And almost always, the person that I've picked as the table chairman has a volunteer job when I get back in the room. Okay. This is the only opportunity I have to impact what parent steps up. Okay. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to pick the person that I think should be the den leader for my son, if my son's in that group, right? Or daughter. And then it could be just who's paying attention to you, who laughed at a joke you made, who's dressed the best. I mean, these are like lowest common denominator, first impression stuff. Okay. So pick a table chairman based on whatever criteria you have. A good one that I also use is anyone who mouths the Scout law along with me when I say it. Also, anyone who raised their hand when they said they had been a Sunday school teacher. Okay. So all that comes into play and are useful. I'm saying those things for a reason, to figure out if there's a parent in the room who either has some scouting background or has worked with kids before. Okay. Come back in the room. We've got some parent volunteers in place. If a particular den has got all their volunteers in place, I'll stop the meeting like this. All right, folks, if you listen up, please. Awesome, thanks. The first graders have gotten all their adult volunteers. We've got a new den leader, a new assistant den leader, and someone for the PAC committee. Could those 3 parents please stand up? Awesome, let's give them a hand. That's fantastic. Hey, second grade, how are y'all doing over there? Let me come back over there and talk to y'all. Okay, so I'm doing ugly peer pressure things there, right? Okay, that really works. And so often when one den gets it, the other dens are like, okay, we have to do this now. They're serious. Okay. Now, every now and then a den will not form right. Either there's no one at the table who can do it, but usually there's a mistake I've made with that table. And that mistake is there's not enough people at that table. If you have less than 6 people, 6 families at a table, you run the risk of that den not forming. And not enough people stepping up to volunteer. So that is our only challenge with this style. Okay. Now, one way that I combat this especially in more rural areas, is I'll combine age groups in a heartbeat. Okay. If we're doing this out in Tappahannock, and I've got 3 second grade parents and 4 third grade parents, that's one den, right? And it's okay. I'd rather have a den of 7 than 2 dens of 3 or 4, because those dens just aren't going to be that much fun. But a den of 7 is a good sized den. That's fine. You can play games, build projects, and you can give them both lesson plans and let those families worry about advancement a little bit more than the den leader worry about advancement. Den leader is just worried about providing a really quality den meeting experience, and they can pull from either book to make those den meetings successful. That's the only risk that I've run into using this method, is if there's not enough families at the table, sometimes a family might not step up and actually volunteer to be den leader, assistant den leader, PAC committee member. Okay, so at most PACs, after you've gotten your adults in place, my recommendation is to go ahead and pass out adult applications right then, and encourage them to bring those back to some sort of orientation meeting that you're going to have soon. And it doesn't need to be a long orientation. We're talking about, hey, let's walk through what a model den meeting might look like. Let's talk about your very next den meeting. And but you want to have some kind of opportunity for those parents to ask questions and get feedback, and have a mentor who's it doesn't have to be the Cub Master or the committee chair who does that. It could be just a very experienced den leader that you already have. Your Weeblo den leader is the perfect person to kind of make that meeting happen. The other thing you're going to have to talk to all the parents about probably is other PAC business. You may have to talk about PAC dues. You may have to talk about upcoming campouts that everyone needs to go and sign up for. But there's other business y'all need to talk about in that room besides the new adult volunteers. But trust me, the most important thing at that first this parents meeting is making sure you have all your adult volunteers in place. Okay. Every now and then, someone who is recruited steps down. It happens no matter what recruitment method you use. But just keep in mind, we recruited 3 volunteers for every den. And my experience has been, if the den leader quits, they'll move up. The assistant den leader will become the den leader, and the PAC committee person will become the assistant, and it'll be okay. But someone's got to watch out for that. And that's really the Cub Master's job. The Cub Master is who the den leaders report to, and that's who should watch out and make sure that the den leadership is in place. Okay, so I've talked for a long time, and I think I've walked through what this parents meeting should be about. What other questions do you have?
So I really appreciate what you shared about getting new blood in and everything. Do you guys have any tips or tricks for getting more out of the ones that are volunteering, and you kind of think that they're just there to be a volunteer but not really do anything? So for example, in our committee meetings, when we have an upcoming event and we're looking for people to chair that event or to be responsible for that event, it's always the same ones that end up having to do it because no one else kind of steps up.
Sure.
So we've talked about maybe splitting up those activities and assigning them to individual dens, and then maybe the den leader would have more success with it. But just wondering if anyone else has had that experience also of, we have people in place who say that they're willing to help, but getting them to that point of actually helping.
So one of the things I found is this one-on-one ask, actually identifying the person and going and seeing them, can have an impact on that. And what I mean is, so I've been at this meeting, the PAC planning conference, and I've said, okay, who can volunteer to lead our Pinewood Derby, right? And I took, everyone's dead silent, and I'm just saying Bueller, and no one's answering at all. So my experience has been, when it's a big role and it's going to be an issue, that the cattle call, hey, who can raise your hand if you can help? That is a challenging way to get that done if the task is larger and more painful, right? And so not doing it there, but often having it as a one-on-one can help with that. Doesn't fully solve the problem of some people are just kind of, not going to volunteer. They're going to keep their head down. They're going to say, I'm a volunteer, but not for that. And so the only way I found successfully to push them into that is to actually just say, hey, can I meet with you? And then, yeah. And then they have to say yes or no. And yeah, we're going to have some parents who aren't going to pull their weight, right? So, but that's a challenge in everything, right? And we just have to kind of work through that. I will say the cattle call is challenging for getting new people to step up.
And you can do your one-on-ones multiple times throughout the year.
Yeah, it doesn't have to-
As you know, the parent, volunteers doesn't seem to be engaged. You can do another one-on-one.
Sure.
Like, hey, I kind of need some help with this, and make them feel like they're trying to be a part of it.
Have y'all seen parent surveys where they tell about their skills and abilities?
Mhm.
Y'all use that? Have y'all used those before? So they can be pretty useful, because usually if a parent is bragging about themselves on that interest sheet, then they'll often want to back that up with some volunteerism down the road too. So I'm not sure that helps you totally, but those are some strategies I've seen work. Anytime you get in front of a group and ask for an important big volunteer assignment, that is tough to get the right person to step up and take it. And the right person meaning the person with the skills, but they're not already burdened with being a den leader or something like that. I will say, as a PAC committee chair, my den leaders had already agreed to volunteer. They wanted to lead. And so they were all about stepping up. And I remember one year having a conversation with like the 4 most active volunteers and saying to them, look, I need you all to let some other parents step up and volunteer. So, hold back a little bit. If I need you, I'll ask you, but you're already my den leader for the 4th grade. I don't need you to do anything else. So that could be an important conversation too, if the same people keep stepping up to do stuff.
We had good experience last year, not asking for parents to be den leaders or assistant den leaders. It was more asking them to run an event, but not like the stuff at the beginning of the year. We went to like October, November, and we were like, anyone interested in doing blue and gold in February or organizing Pinewood Derby? And I had a dad and 2 moms say, we are happy to run Pinewood Derby. We just don't want to commit all year. But we kind of waited a little bit later in the year and they were down for it. I had another mom who did blue and gold for us. She was great. She just didn't want all year, but she was happy to do like a 2-week thing. But we kind of waited till everyone was settled, and we had families to help us with certain events, which was great. Even our Christmas party, one family did that for us, which was really cool. And it meant den leaders didn't for once.
Yeah.
So that was nice. We said we would do it if no one else did it, but we just sat there and then families stepped up and did it for us.
Online, anyone have questions or comments you want to make? That if you want to come off mute and ask, go ahead. All right.
To a successful PAC meeting that I went to. And it was kind of similar to some of the things that you showed, but at the end, when they recruited their den leaders and some of their other people, I can't remember if it was committee chair or cub master, actually rolled into the room a tree. It was just a branchy tree with no leaves on it. And there were all these pieces of paper on it. And he said to the group, hey guys, I have great news. If you're not a den leader, an assistant den leader, or whatever else they were recruiting for that night, they said, we have small jobs for each of you. And so we're going to play a game. And so I'm going to say, on your mark, get set, go. And you all get to run to the front of the room, take a look at all the different fun things that we have. And everybody gets to pick one. And I kid you not, it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. He said, on your mark, get set, go. These adults jumped up, ran to the front of the room and picked out, they were all around the tree picking stuff, but everybody picked something. And so then he said, okay, I want you to write your name, your phone number, your email, and turn it back in. And he went by the door and collected them as people were leaving. And I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. So there's an idea.
That's a good idea. And I've seen that done in a different way, where the PAC took construction paper in different colors and wrote all the tasks on construction paper and used some kind of, I guess it was masking tape, and stuck it to the wall. And then you walked up to the wall and took the task that you wanted. Same exact thing though, that could work great.
And it was silly things like, I'll do, dinner for the Pinewood Derby, or, I'll contact the church to set up Scout Sunday. I mean, it was simple things, and everybody took something. It was neat to see.
Okay. Anyone else have something really successful that they did around volunteer recruitment in their pack? They want to share?
For Pinewood Derby last year, we roped some former Cub Scouts who were Boy Scouts, and they ran the races for us.
Oh, yeah.
They were
Yeah.
awesome, and all the Cubs listened to them. They
Yep.
knew, all the Cubs knew them, but the kids behaved so well because these older Boy Scouts were running the races and doing everything. That worked really nicely.
And I'll bet if their scoutmaster let them, they can probably count that as service hours
They
too.
all did, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's a great idea. Yep. If you've got a good relationship with a scout troop, either at the same charter organization or nearby, I would absolutely use them as much as humanly possible. And if you're not using den chiefs, you can consider that. We see sometimes we have packs who have den chiefs because they have a troop that they're paired with. But den chiefs can be a really valuable thing. Growing up, I was a den chief when I had been a senior patrol leader. I was working on my Eagle badge. They said, you've got to hold a troop leadership position, and they put me as den chief. And then it counted. I went once a month. I went to a den meeting, and did games with Cub Scouts, and it was good. It was easy. They listened to me because I was a giant compared to them. So, but den chiefs can really work too. Okay. Anything else for the good of the group? All right. Well, hey, thank you all for coming out for the training, whether you're online or in person. Really appreciate it. Hope it was useful to you. We are recording this, and we'll be posting it on the council's YouTube channel. And I'll send everyone who attended a link, and we'll probably send every Cub Master who didn't attend. So thank you.